The ratings are in for Meghan Markle's new Netflix series, With Love Meghan. Also, a celebrity chef who called the series terrible is now receiving threats? Welcome to Popcorn Palace. I am Andy Signor, and of course, leave it to the Sussex Squad to show Meghan as the massive hypocrite that she is, because while she's so anti-bullying, her own fan base is the worst. Now, before we get to that story about the chef, let's talk about the ratings. Depending on the outlet that you read this story on, you're going to see it basically a glass half full or glass half empty. The reality is these ratings aren't good, but they're not a massive bomb and they're not a big success. These are very middling numbers. I would say poor. I would say they're poor ratings, but they're not as big of a bomb as they could have been. To really put it in perspective, this show was 10 in the top 10. So it cracked the top 10, which is a success point, I guess, in itself. If it had not cracked the top 10, I think it would have been safe to call it a failure. But it just barely eked in, so it's like the lowest level of than you could imagine. Is this like what Netflix was hoping? Obviously not. Now, everyone's comparing it to the numbers of Harry and Meghan, and I'll be honest, I think that's unfair. No one expected it to be anywhere near the level of Harry and Meghan, which was a huge blockbuster documentary. I'm going to reveal all the secrets about the royal family. The first time they really were going to go there, and everyone was going in like, what are they going to say? What are they going to say? Haters were watching it. People who loved them were watching it. That was clearly the biggest draw they're ever going to get from a standpoint. To maintain those types of numbers is incredibly unrealistic. However, it's a lot lower than what they got there. So it just shows like they've hit the ceiling and this is probably about as big as they're going to get. Is that enough to keep paying them the millions and millions of dollars that Netflix is giving them? It'll really determine, I think, how, as ever, brands perform at Netflix's stores or online, which this show really is just designed to hawk her products and to sell them. Her raspberry jelly jam. I don't know what the hell it is. Anyway, let's look at the actual numbers. Okay. So Deadline's reporting the 8-part series. That's 8 episodes, mind you. So these numbers are misleading. The 8-part episode received 12.6 million hours viewed. Now, I'll be honest. That's about what I get on this channel right here. Popcorn Planet, I would surpass that from 1 million views watched. I've done better than that. And that's an 8-episode series. It's pretty shocking how realistically us YouTubers are basically performed as much as her. So when I look at them, I'm just like, yikes. Because again, if you compare it with the behind ratings leader Kate Hudson's led Running Point, which had 61.8 hours across the week, it's not a good look. For 8 episodes across the several days, it only managed 12.6 million with all that hype and press she did. It's not a good sign. And once any sort of hype dies down, I don't expect it's going to jump in numbers. It's going to slowly go worse and worse. This was obviously significantly down lower than Harry and Meghan, which premiered to their biggest documentary debut ever. Directed by Liz Garbus, that got 81.6 hours viewed in the first 3 days, which is a big number. Adding another 97.7 in its first full week. On the service, as well as 39.7 in its second full week. So, a lot of views and a lot of interest over the course of the first couple weeks. Whereas I sense With Love Meghan will die down very fast as it goes. It's going to just, next week, it's going to be even worse from a rating standpoint. I don't see this growing in the top 10 as other shows would. Sometimes big shows, and even Meghan and Harry, I bet you, grew in the top 10. This show, I'd be shocked if it does. If it continues to grow, then we can't call it a failure. If it falls out of the top 10, then yes, it's pretty much a failure. Live to Lead documentary series didn't even hit the top 10, so it's not clear how many views it scored. Similarly, Heart of Victus premiere also failed. Polo failed. So this is the first time they at least cracked the top 10, but they were number 10. So take that as you will. It's like not a win in my opinion, but it's not as big as a failure as some of these outlets are trying to claim. It's just not a complete bomb. I can't call it a bomb. It's not a bomb. It's just poor. It's a very poor showing. With Love Follows the Suit star, as we know, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, you get the gist. Now, it's just interesting. As you look at these ratings, which are not good. They're not good. For the amount of money spent that they put on these, it's not good. I'm not trying to hype it but positive, but it's not a bomb because Netflix's metrics, did it crack the top 10? Yes. Okay. How much is sort of, they'll dictate. The other thing I want to talk about here is that They announced a second season, but it's a lie. It is not a second season. They greenlit 16 episodes. And then they just decided to space them out. So you didn't just drop them all at once, which is smart on Netflix's point. Okay, we're just going to buy 16 episodes, but we'll split it into 2 seasons. That's not a second season buy. That's just, we bought a lot of episodes, and honestly, they may have paid less for them, and they released it the first batch, and they're going to release the second batch later. They shot it all at the same time. So it costs her less to do that. I imagine she took a price tag, but it makes her seem like she got a season 2, which is what I'm sure she's going to be touting. We got a 2-season order. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You just got 16 episodes that they cut into 2 parts. If they buy a season 3 and 4, that'll be telling, guys. That'll be the real point as to whether Netflix re-ups this. Now, there is a version of this. Don't be mad at me, the bearer of bad news. For those of you who want this to be a failure, there is a strong likelihood they are going to give her a much lower deal that they won't reveal how low it is to keep Harry and Meghan to do this stupid, dumb show and still be consultants for a very cheap price. Why would Meghan and Harry take that? Well, of course they're going to take that so it doesn't look like they lost their Netflix deal. They are going to be in a very bad negotiating power position when the re-up comes to town. And while we all assume they're not going to get re-upped, they're not going to re-up, it's true. They're not going to make another $100 million. That's for sure true. But will Netflix pay them $5 million just to keep them in the Rolodex, to have a prince and whatever nonsense? Netflix has so much money, they don't care. They don't care. And if this show does crack the top 10 and sells some products in their store, they're going to make the argument that, yeah, it's all right, it's worth it. It's a talent play. As much as people dislike her, they're hate watching her. And honestly, they like that. I do genuinely think they like people on their platform that they both love, admire, and also hate. As long as people are talking about them, they're relevant, Netflix wants to be in business with them. And Meghan and Harry don't want to look like failures on Netflix. So that's my prediction as what's going to happen. So stay tuned. Of course, people, her number one mouthpiece is saying, oh, it clinched the top spot of the charts. A top spot. No, that's a bottom spot on the chart. They got the bottom part of the it was in the top 10. It ranked 10th. That's the bottom of the chart, not a top spot. It's not a top spot, a top 10, and you're number 10. You're the last spot. So you can see out there, some of them are trying to spin this into a win. It's not. Look, it's a poor showing, but I have to keep it honest with you guys. It's not the bomb that I think many people were expecting to be, like Polo and all the other shows. This one at least cracked the top 10. If it hadn't, it would have been real bad news for her. So I think she pulled off whatever favors and things she could do to get there. Now, I do want to point this out. Celebrity Chef hits out at Meghan's show, calls it terrible. I love this. Look at this.
I was asked last year by Netflix if I wanted to consult on a lifestyle program. They didn't go into too much detail to whom it was, but I already kind of knew who it was anyway.
Why didn't you take it up?
I felt that even if she produced a really great program, which I was quite sceptical of anyway, that I might get a little bit slammed for being a part of it, to be honest with you.
Amongst your colleagues and industry peers?
Not really. I didn't like the idea of me showing her how to do something and then it kind of being forced and fake.
Yeah. So you think whoever did eventually help Meghan would have had to have shown her how to cook and make recipes, and then she's passing off as her own?
Well, I'd imagine with a production company like Netflix would have 2 or 3 consultants. Yeah. They'll have a stylist, for instance, for clothes. She'll have they'll be given ideas what to do for food. And I just felt that, if she's going to do something herself, she should do something herself. But, I mean, Netflix is obviously such a huge company. Yeah. They're going to surround it with quality people to make her look good, because at the end of the day, they're trying to chase the money and claw a bit of money back.
Well,
Yeah, 100%. He's right on the money, by the way. He's right on the money. And yeah, he called the show nonsense. The full quote here, speaking at JB News, he was skeptical to be part of it. I felt that even if she produced a program, which I was quite skeptical, I might get slammed. I felt like she was going to do something herself. She should do it herself. The music's he said everything about it was terrible. Music's quite slow. It's quite lethargic. It's just painful to watch. I think she should just go back to acting. She's quite good actress in real life or obviously on screen. I think people should just stick to what they do best. Bravo. Anyway, after saying all that, of course, Sussex Squad came out in loads to threaten him. So this was interesting. You criticize the Duchess, Miss Meghan Sussex. And you get threats. You get threatened. But she's the victim. Leave her alone. Leave her alone. I started getting threats and all sort of nasty messages. And I'm thinking to myself, Christ, I've not gone in on somebody personally here because that's something I would not do. That's something that just not my nature, to be honest with you. She did think it was, he's allowed to say the show's terrible. You got to accept that it is. It is terrible. There seem to be a few people online who enjoy it and are like her. We knew that was going to happen. But overall, yeah, the show is absolutely boring and terrible. Unless you're really a fan of her, or you look up to her, which there are people that do. Unless you're in that camp, this show is awful. No one's going to watch it. No one's going to be inspired by it unless you like her. And not enough people like her. Speaking of not liking her, guys, episode 2 of With Hate Meghan dropping next week. Woohoo! I just saw episode 2. It's getting really close to finished. I am so excited. I'm still taping some final pieces. Episode 2 is even great. I love that I can actually keep going as all this is coming in. We're going to parlay some of this information in the next 2 final episodes. But I hope you guys have signed up for Patreon. If you haven't already, I hope you'll consider doing it. You'll be supporting our investigative documentaries. You can watch Meghan v. Harry, which is already available. Just head over to the collections once you've signed up. You can watch all the stuff we've done. You'll be able to see With Hate Meghan, episode 1, episode 2 dropping next week, episode 3 coming right after that. And you'll also be able to see our production diaries from our shoot in LA this past week. Yes, we're doing a documentary about the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni drama. It's going to be intense. I'm really proud of what we shot over the week. Stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe on Patreon. It's the best way to support. And subscribe here. Hit that bell for all alerts. Smash that thumbs up as well and leave your comments down below. Appreciate all you guys so much. If you want to look into Patreon more, click that little icon of me eating the popcorn. And that'll take you straight over there. Consider picking a level, signing up, and then checking out all the amazing content there.